Hey folks, thanks for pushing play on this episode of the Josh Johnson Leadership Podcast. Today you're going to hear 3 church planners telling 3 stories of 3 initiatives to plant a church in one place. That place is my hometown of Grants Pass, Oregon. It's fascinating to hear their different perspectives, methodologies, and origin stories. It's also fun to just listen to the camaraderie and silliness. These guys do not bring a I'm bigger and better attitude to the table. I appreciate that. I find it a lot more fun to learn from people who are modeling a spirit of generosity. I know you're going to take things out of this that are going to fit for your own leadership context because most likely you're not a church planner, at least not yet. Okay, that conversation begins now. Hey guys, so glad you said yes to joining me for this conversation. The 3 of you are church planners, and I wonder if you could introduce yourselves by sharing your name, what you did before becoming a church planter, and how long you've been a church planner. Let's start over here.
Yeah, my name's Aaron Martinez. I am lead pastor at Joy Church Grants Pass. What we say every week is that we're the best church that ever was or ever will be. I firmly believe that, especially with present company included. Before pastoring, we won't talk about the prison stint or the exotic dancing, but other than that, no, I'm just joking. Neither of those are true. Did a lot of construction work and attended Joy Church Medford for at least 30 years, which is a weird thing to say. But I was on staff there managing the building, working with interns, doing Bible college stuff, music stuff, kind of everything, and didn't really expect to actually go out and plant. So it was a surprise when we did, but luckily we had covered a lot of bases. So.
And how long have you been a church planter?
Coming up on 5 years in November.
Okay.
My name is Craig Rodenmeyer, and I'm the pastor of Lifegate Church of Grants Pass. We have been a church meeting in our home for the last year and a half, and we are now going to emerge, if I can use that word, into a public meeting setting this Friday, tomorrow. And I was an inventory photographer for car dealerships in Texas before becoming a church planner, going to school and earning a bachelor's degree in church planning. And before that, I spent years as a automotive service manager in dealerships. All told, we've been at this probably close to 2 years now.
Well, what's up, everybody? My name's Sam Peck, and planted Philippi Chuch. We just turned 3 last Sunday. 3 years public services. We were kind of core team and all that for like a year leading up. But so it's really been like a 4-year journey. And before that, I was an associate pastor at a church called Heritage in Medford, Oregon. And I kind of did just jack of all trades there, worship, small groups, preaching, whatever. Spent 6 years developing kind of some skills and stuff there. They sent us out with a team, and the rest is history.
So talk a bit about why you became a church planter and why you chose Grants Pass to plant a church.
Church planning for me was something I always thought sounded interesting, first of all. Just it was something that when I worked at Applegate like 15 years ago or whatever, they were trying to make budget cuts out there. And so
that's where all church plants come from.
So they're like, we got to save budget. So do you want to go plant a church? In other words, do you want to get off our payroll? That kind of was in the inception moment for me at 20 years old or whatever. Like, oh, maybe I could start a church. I always liked starting things. I always felt like that was kind of a thing that I like to do. Didn't end up planting a church then, gladly, because it would have been bad. So met my wife, got some experience in ministry, and then I just started to really experience this conviction as I saw the statistics of how effective church plants are at reaching the unsaved, the unchurched, and sort of those that are not within the evangelical community. And I think it's just kind of door-to-door evangelism isn't really a thing right now. The tent revivals, right? We don't see those necessarily happening. It's like, where are people? People aren't banging on the doors of local churches. Most non-Christians are trying to avoid the church door. But the statistics show that church plants are pretty effective at reaching the lost. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that I won't get too into, but I just felt like, well, that's really, I think, where my emphasis should be, just wanting to make disciples from the ground up, wanting to plant the gospel in a new community and see it take a hold of people. And so, yeah, that was the big reason for church planting. And then just having that calling affirmed, I think, in multiple people saying, I think that you should do this, and this is something you're called to do. Working at a church planting church at Heritage was huge, just being a part of that culture. And I was kind of the first send out from that church. So that was exciting. As far as Grants Pass, that's a really long story, but I knew God was calling us into a little bit of a poorer community. I knew God was calling us somewhere where we could be still close to Southern Oregon, because I think that's where the Lord has kind of led my heart, was Southern Oregon. And we have some connection here and some favor here. Grants Pass, I just started driving out here when I was praying about where, Lord, because I knew we were going to plant, just didn't know where. Started driving out here and I just fell in love with this community, underbelly and all. I mean, it's just such a cool community, and there's so much pain here, and there's so much hurt here. I love that the socioeconomic strata is kind of enmeshed. In Medford, it's very separated. You got East Medford and West Medford, and the two don't ever really mix. In Grants Pass, everyone's just kind of stacked on top of each other, and downtown actually has life, and there's just stuff going on. Mm-hmm. So I loved that. And the other thing was the other churches in town. Frankly, mm-hmm. I met with other pastors, and I was so impressed. They were like, "Yeah, get out here and help us. Like, we need more churches." I'm like, "That's weird. Usually established churches get kind of funky when you're the new guy in town." And these guys were just like, "Man, come on out. We love you." Throw arms around. The COV thing, just seeing how church pastors were working together was impressive, and I wanted to be part of it. So yeah, heart just grew for the community, and this is, I think, exactly where we were supposed to be. I didn't see, Grants Pass in my Cheerios or anything like that. I didn't have an angel appear to me and say, Grants Pass, but the Lord just kind of has led us this direction, and it's been awesome.
I'll take the next swing.
Did you see it in Cheerios?
I didn't see it in Cheerios because I don't like Cheerios. It was really Raisin Bran for me.
You can see anything in Raisin Bran.
You know what? You do you. No, and let me just back up. I spent 2.5 years on staff at this really amazing, great church in Rockwall, Texas, as a ministry manager. I didn't have any ministry experience. I got the bachelor's degree from Criswell College, and Lake Point Church gave me an opportunity to step into ministry. I went from 0 to 60 because Lake Point Church, the last time I heard, is probably one of the top fastest growing churches in the United States. And so it's great because of all the leadership and the training, but it's great big. And I found myself in the midst of that. So apologies for not remembering that. But before that happened, we actually had a gospel encounter in our hometown of Ashland, Oregon. My wife and I, we were born and raised in Ashland. And at the time, we were living in Rockwall, Texas, which is east of Dallas. And we would come to Oregon for vacation, and we were in Lithia Park. And one day we had a gospel encounter with a couple of young people in town. And shortly thereafter, the Lord spoke to me and said, you could come here every day with a Bible, a bag of food, a guitar, a hacky sack, and proclaim the gospel here in this park. These are your people. And, I had started full-time as a student at Criswell College, and I offhandedly turned to my wife and I said, the Lord just said something. She goes, that's interesting. And I was a psych major. I was going to do biblical counseling. Then a couple months later, I was in chapel, and that one day, the head of church planting revitalization was speaking and talking about how, Sam, to your point, church planting is the cutting edge of reaching people with the gospel. And I heard loud and clear from the Lord, this is what I want you to do. And so I changed my major. I set my course for that. And Debbie and I began to pray about that. And at some point, we had to make a decision. Are we going to do this or not? We had a divine encounter with a local builder. We found an amazing place to build a house here in town. And we just felt that Grants Pass was the confirmation for us because we had a heart for Southern Oregon. We wanted to step out in faith. And as far as what that means now is it's still about looking for the gospel encounters. We are always always looking for the opportunity to share the good news. I know Sam and Aaron are doing the same. I know that the other pastors here in town are doing the same, because we're all working for the same measure of hope and developing the church here in town. And so that's how it happened. I went on staff at Lake Point Church before we came up here, got a chance to develop some ministry administrative skills. They blessed me in many, many ways to teach me how to become ready for the next step. That's how it happened.
Wow. So do you actually have a degree in church planting? You said you're the only one here who knows what they're doing.
No, I can't say that.
Oh my gosh!
But yeah, you come by the house and I'll show it to you. It hangs on the wall, and nobody's impressed except me.
Come on, Aaron. I have a high school diploma, and I read a couple blogs.
That's all it takes.
That equips me.
Yeah, Aaron here. Yeah, so you guys sound like you did it the right way. It's very noble and wonderful, and saw messages in your Cheerios. Mine was like the kicking and screaming. Like I just wanted to be a background guy. I was on staff. I was like, I just wanted to make other people look good. I mean, I did not ever think that we were going to go plant a church. It was not. I just did. Usually the story is I was 10 years old and I had this experience and I knew that I was going to go plant, and I fell in love with, I got a degree in biblical studies, and that it just wasn't us. We were background. We were kind of behind the scenes. We had a prophetic gathering at our church. I know not every faith stream or denomination really
has prophetic gatherings.
Makes room for that. Yeah.
Why are you looking at me?
I'm not. I looked at everyone equally.
Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, believe it or not, we had gone up to watch a global leadership summit, which was put on by Willow Creek, pastored by Bill Hybels. And he's fallen into various forms of disrepute now. But at the time, he was talking about really finding your white hot why, the thing that gets you up in the morning, the thing that you go to bed, thinking about. And so my wife and I were driving back from Eugene a couple hours. I said, man, what is our white hot why? I'm on staff. The kids are great. We have enough income. Like life is good. We're happy. But do we have that thing that we feel like we're leaving it all on the field? Like we're giving it everything that we have. And I said, honestly, I don't feel that way. I feel comfortable, but not like I'm just really digging in. And Danny, my wife, says, Aaron, I think I know what our white hot why, or your white hot why is. I said, what? And she goes, well, obviously we're supposed to pastor a church. I said, how dare you say that? You take that back. Don't you utter a word of that to anyone ever. And so I fought that hard. And I said, okay, well, if that's what we're supposed to do, God's going to have to make that really, really, really plain. So mum's the word, don't say anything. Let's just sit on that. And so, of course, 2 weeks later, we have this prophetic gathering. We were not slated to go through. We were not signed up. We were just there attending, watching other people go through. The very last night, they get to the end of everybody, and we're like ready to go home. And they said, wait, you two. And they point us out of the crowd. You guys come up here. We have some more to say to you. And they just read our mail. It's time to go. You've been here. You've been prepping. You've been polished for a long time. Now it's time for you guys to go. A couple of weeks later, another itinerant minister who was just traveling through after service called us up, not publicly, but afterwards came up and he said, hey, I can't talk about this and dishonor this house. But yeah, you guys are supposed to, just over and over and over. It just came up again. And finally we said, okay, this is what we're going to do. So we chose Grants Pass for some similar reasons to you guys. We are small town people. We don't like huge bustling cities. Again, we have read the same statistics that church plants are the churches that really evangelize. They really get into the city and they meet new people, they bring people in, they share the gospel, etc. So we came out here, loved it, and it seems like ever since we've come out, when we look for a facility, when we need people, when we need doors to open, they open. And it's not because we're great and we're flashy and we're wonderful. I don't even have a degree in church planting. We come out and we just feel like God called us to be here and he has opened doors, and it's probably been too easy. So if I were to write a book about it, everyone would probably be mad about me because they'd be like, I tried the same thing you did and none of it worked. And I'm not going to write a book about it because we just feel like we're doing what God has called us to do, trying to remain humble about it, and just the successes, they're God's, and the failures, they're definitely ours.
Yeah. So why did you not want your wife to bring that up? What was there that was like, you just didn't want to open the door? Could you name that?
It was probably just I had an inkling of the cost. Mm-hmm. I knew what it would take. I had been on staff for a long time. I've seen lead pastors, I've seen eldership level, and I know it costs a lot. I knew that then. I especially know it now. And I was pretty happy being behind the scenes. There was a level of comfort and security where you can operate, you can do your thing, and someone else is leading the charge, and they're kind of responsible for the success or failure, whether that's true or not. That's how it's perceived. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, no, I'm comfortable, being here. I don't want to be the lead guy, and that didn't last for very long. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I want to zoom in on being a pastor. Does a pastor need a different set of skills to pastor a church plant than to pastor a quote unquote established church? You mentioned skills, and you Craig, you spent some time developing those skills at the church in Texas. Talk about that skill set that you developed, and do you see that as being different than pastoring an established church?
One of the best things that I gleaned was sitting under amazing leaders and downloading basic skills on how to lead well, from being, personal self-care to leading teams. Being a little bit older, coming into ministry, having been an independent contractor prior to coming into vocational ministry, I had to learn a whole new subset of skills, and I needed to learn first and foremost how to be humble. And let me just say this about schooling. You can learn all kinds of theology and you can talk about getting out of the boat and how to get out of the boat and why to get out of the boat, but it's entirely different than actually getting out of the boat. And that's the difference between, I think, in some ways, being a church pastor and a planter. Again, with all deference, I've never pastored a church. Mm-hmm. I watched really amazing pastors lead from afar. I had a great mentor there over me, and, I watched him lead. And so I come from a very limited understanding of what it means to be a church pastor. Mm-hmm. And I know that there are things that overlap. I know that there's things that are the same, but as a church pastor or a planning pastor, you're everything. You're the chief cook and bottle washer, and it's all on me or you, Aaron, or you, Sam. We've all started there, and so I'm not sure. It's all about developing people. Mm-hmm. And looking for the Lord to bring you the resources in the harvest, if you will. Yeah. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, any reflections from you, Sam or Aaron, on kind of a unique skill set that maybe a church planner might need to have that might contrast with?
I think a lot of it comes down to what your model of planting is, and there's so many different ways that you can plant. I think just even at this table, we have a lot of different, a lot of diversity and different approaches, and I don't think there's like one perfect approach. If we're talking about, like what Craig is doing over here, I mean, him and Debbie just parachuted in. Like, you guys dropped into a new community with no core team, and that takes a particular set of skills. Much more evangelistic in nature, much more like you're opening up your home, you're doing church in your garage. But then there's also a model more like what I think I did, which is to start with a church, really. I mean, we started with 30 people. And so I was kind of pastoring from day one, and so we had, and I don't apologize for that model. I think it's a great way to do it. I wouldn't do it any differently. I don't think it's the right way or the perfect way, but I'm a pastor more than I'm a church planner, and I knew that. A church planner really, by definition, should almost be completely evangelist, and then maybe some visionary, right? And then we all use the word entrepreneurial too much, but that's because we think about the church like a business. In reality, like a church planner should be evangelist, and then you're going to have to learn how to care for those people once you get saved. The dichotomy I think that we're need to address, though, is that church planting right now isn't really what it looks like in the Acts. A lot of what we do is more like church starting.
Book of Acts?
Yeah, the book of Acts. Like a lot of what we do probably is better suited to be called church starting. I mean, we've seen conversions. Like we've seen people come to Christ, but let's get real. I mean, we got a couple hundred people at Philippi. Like 10 of those, if we're lucky, 10 of those have gotten saved at Philippi. The rest were already Christians. So we didn't save them, right? So we're starting a new work, and I think that that's still good, and I think it's still healthy. But I think there's a lot more pastoring involved in what I'm doing than if I were doing what Craig's doing, which is just a drop in and literally just, starting from zero, you know what I mean? Without a core team. So I don't know where I'm going with all that, but I think unfortunately we've so overly businessed church to where we think about, okay, we need guys that can start, the kind of guys that can start businesses, the guys that can start churches. It's like, yeah, if starting a church to you is getting a cool website and a logo and making a cool service and creating a brand in a platform, that's not a church. A church is a living organism. A church is something the Spirit of God creates. A church is believers that have been born again, that are going to do life together. And that's, to me, that's like, yeah, anybody can start a church if you can get on Canva and make a cool logo and then get a nonprofit status, which is the easiest thing in the world to do. But in reality, you actually have to care for these people. And so I think, the church plant culture is just some toxicity in it. And in that, I think it's, if I can use the word, it's become sexy for pastors to think about becoming church planters because they're like entrepreneurial businessmen. Look at what I created. And it's really a lot about pride. Look, I started this thing and I was rags to riches, and we showed up in this town, and now we're pastoring this big church. It's like, that's really a bunch of garbage. Most church plants see people come to Christ. That's true, but they collect people from other churches, and that's okay. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like we created this thing out of our ingenuity and cracking the code. Like that's just not true. God is doing things. We're just and I'm really at this point, I'm much more pastor than church planter. I don't even know if I should call myself a church planter. I got a couple hundred people and I'm pastoring them. That's what I'm doing, and really, like, I don't know if I'm a church planter anymore. I'm just pastoring, and that's really what God's called me to do now, is I get to just care for these people and watch them grow.
Aaron?
I haven't run an established church myself. It's not like I've been hired on to like come take over. So I'm going to have to speak from ignorance there. But in terms of a church plant, the skill set has to be flexibility and the ability to just bootstrap and make something work. Which if you take over an existing church and you haven't experienced that before, it's probably quite a bit different. I was much more well acquainted with dongles our first year planting than I should have been. And
Could you explain what that is?
That's a weird word. I know. It could go right off the rails here.
Is that like Dongles the clown that you would bring in?
It sounds like it could be just about anything. But it's an adapter to make one electronic device communicate with another electronic device. And I swear, you start, and to get your projector working or sound or lyrics or text or anything like that, you're like, I came here to do theology and to pastor people, and all I'm doing is trying to fix broken machinery. Like, what is happening
here? So
you're
speaking very, very literally, like about making it, and because I was like, that could be metaphorical too, of like you're trying to adapt.
No, I'm talking literally because
things,
that's not the kind of skill set that anyone like who has a master's in adapters for projectors. It's the kind of thing that when you plant.
Does Chriswell have any?
No, I don't think they've started.
Craig's like,
that.
I minored in dongles actually.
yeah, exactly.
No, they have a major in sarcasm though.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm halfway through that.
Yeah, good. And what I'm getting at is that there are a lot of tasks that if you don't go out, Sam went out with about 30 people. We had I think we had 12 or 13 adults, and you guys like parachute drop, Craig, right? I mean, you guys didn't have a big team here.
We didn't. No.
So the fewer people you have on the team, the less you can delegate. Hey, you make this work. And so you're doing that. And so it's a whole different level of bootstrapping. And if this is going to work for our for our weekend service or whatever it is, it's on me. So now I'm working on this instead of what I envisioned, which is putting together really slick, polished messages that'll make everyone laugh and cry and all of that. So just the ability to really dig it out of the dirt and make something work and still be able to maintain positive atmosphere and your own joy and pleasure and being able to be a good, fun person to be around without being just totally buried under the, the weekly stress of doing the pastor thing and also whatever other, paperwork and dongles and adapters have to come up. So,
and I think that's a double-edged sword of the church plant phenomenon is that, you're right, Aaron, like you need a particular, like I like figuring things out. I like starting new things. It's fun to me.
It's a drive.
I get bored, I get bored and I'm like, okay, it's what else can I do now?
Me too.
But that's the real problem, I think, is that you get these guys that start churches and they get all these people together and they cast this vision and they get elders and they get, deacons and they get systems. And then they're like, okay, I'm bored, and they see the church as a stepping stone to something else. And I think at some point you need to determine, like, are you a church planter or are you a pastor? And if you're a church planter so that you can be a pastor, that's good. But if you're not a pastor, then like start thinking about developing a pastor because your people need to be cared for.
I think that's a great point because there does come a necessary transition from one to the other.
Yep.
Or else you should just remain one. Right. I'm going to go and plant churches.
Which is what Paul did.
Yeah. And it's great, but just knowing that.
Yeah.
So you don't stay in that perpetual cycle of...
Right. But they established elders, right? They did the first thing. They established elders so that someone was caring for the church, but they weren't building a brand. They weren't building an Instagram feed. They were seeing people come to Christ, and then they were actually baptizing them into the church and shepherding them. And it's a little different than what we talk about when we say church planting today. You know what I mean?
Well, Sam, I just have to say something. You shot a hole in my whole church planting model about coming and getting a cool logo and a cool website. And so I really, after this, have to go back to the drawing board and figure out what I'm doing. Thank you for deflating that. No, so in regard to technology, since we're on technological skills, I have none. And this might actually be laughable, but before I came here, I literally learned how to make a loop slide in PowerPoint that I can use tomorrow night. I have a computer that could run ProPresenter, but I don't have a PhD to figure that out. Lord Jesus, please send me someone. If you're listening, we need somebody who knows how to run.
You have an amateur presenter. You don't have pro presenter.
We have PowerPoint and a clicker. We are so uncool. We are so not ready for prime time. And it's perfect because the Lord isn't asking me to be technologically savvy. I mean, you two really cut into my desire for mediocrity in regard to all of the technology and the skills. And, I really love both of you and your ability to do that. But when it comes to Lifegate Church, what I hope people are experiencing and will experience is the Spirit of the living God. And Jesus Christ crucified. And because that's all we have, I don't have anything cool. We hire people to do stuff. And I believe that God is going to bring us people as we move forward in faith, because I believe that God has skilled people. And I think that that's probably the church planting skill that I brought with me is to develop people instead of developing ministry. If I can develop people to step into the ministry gifts that they have, maybe they don't know they have, but they're looking to have an opportunity, then Lord bless that and develop people before I develop a ministry.
What you just said, though, I think that's why church plants tend to be healthy, because you have nothing but the gospel and you know it. We don't have the programs, we don't have the kids, we don't have the cool youth groups and the cool worship bands, and like we just don't. We're just running with whatever the Lord's given us. And for that reason, we're like, hey, you want some really good news? Like, do you want the church? Do you want body life? Do you want family? Like, these are the things that we can give you without big budgets and buildings. And actually, that's so healthy for a church to go, all we have to offer is the good news of Jesus Christ, the Spirit of God, and the body life, the organic organism of the church. And I think as churches grow, they can sort of forget that. They can start to lean on their programs and lean on their big buildings and their cool worship and their cool polished teachings and all that. Not that stuff's evil, but that becomes the focus. That's what you draw people to. When people come to church plants, you're like, cool, what do you want to do? I have nothing for you. I have no programs. All I have to offer you is a job. You want to work for free.
How about
cool.
some suffering?
That's what I think. That's one of the things that makes church plants healthy.
Well, there was a leadership axiom at the church I was at down in Texas that you can get fired for doing ministry. Everyone's looking at me like that.
I've heard that before.
You can get fired for doing ministry. You come here to develop and equip the saints to do ministry and to proclaim the good news to the lost. If we're just doing it, then maybe you should find something else to do. Like Spurgeon said, if there's anything you can do that. But if you've been called to this, there's nothing else you can do. Yeah, I just quoted Spurgeon. Boom.
Oh, nice job.
Boom.
If there's like a future church planter listening in on this conversation, you've named some of them, but what are some of the challenges and struggles that are unique to this role? And if you could kind of name some of those, and then if you would have any encouragement or counsel to this future church planter of how to kind of prepare to meet them.
Run.
like Admiral Akbar from Star Wars. It's a trap.
Well, it didn't work for you though, Aaron.
I know.
So
I'm still trying.
So what's some encouragement for the person who's maybe feeling called and they don't want to hear that call? What's some encouragement or counsel for them?
I would say kind of like what Craig was name dropping Spurgeon there. If you are called to do it, you're not going to be happy anywhere else. And so I didn't want to step into this role, but now I'm so glad I'm doing it. I would be very unhappy if I weren't. But I would probably say just my hunch is that in the future, the way that the church is going, well, let me start with, in the past, we've kind of had one metric. If your church grows to a lot of people and you have flashy stuff and you have lots of money, that's how you could tell it's a good church. I think that that's probably going to change, and it's in the midst of a change. People aren't just looking for flash. They want something that's real. They want body life. They want family. They want community. And what I've been thinking about lately, I read a book called Mega, Multi, Micro, and it's talking about the different forms and expressions of church. And instead of treating one like it's great, the mega church is great, the medium-sized church is worse, the micro church is that's the worst, that's the lowest rung. I think that's just totally wrong thinking. To an aspiring church planter, planting where you're called and the kind of church that you're supposed to start. Maybe it's in a small town, maybe it's in a rural community, maybe it's in a big community, but it's meant to be a micro church, a home church, or whatever. That should be just as celebrated as the guy who has the big giant thousands of people, whatever, because it is a network of the capital C universal church that God is still building, still growing, and is still going to take over and win. So, Jesus talking about the parable of the talents. Hey, you might get a bunch of gifting from God. You might get a little bit in comparison to the next guy. But really, at the end of the day, your responsibility is to do the most with what you have and celebrating that. Like having a healthy home life, a healthy family life, and being able to say, God called me here and I am giving it my best. We're not as big or flashy as the church down the street, but guess what? Bless them. They're doing a good work and I'm doing the good work that I was called to do. And being happy with that. I've had to learn that. I know a lot of other guys have, because the one metric that you usually see when you go out is, well, this church planted and now they're 5,000 people after 2 years, and this church did this. And you're like, cool, well, that's obviously what I have to do. And then when you don't do that, you're like, well, what now? My identity's broken. Well, it shouldn't be. Maybe I'm not as gifted as that guy. Maybe that's just not what God has called me to do. All I can answer for is, did I do the very most that I could with what God gave me? And if I can answer that an honest yes, I have, and I am going to continue to do that, then I should feel like, you know what? This is what God called me to do. I'm doing it. And so life is good. And if it changes in the future, great. But I'm going to be content with what God's called me to do. And I think our job is to really kind of embrace, circle around, and hold up the arms of pastors who are planting. And whether it's a big work, a small work, or anything in between, really celebrating it because it's the nature of the work that is successful, not whether somebody, has a big, little, medium church, whatever it is.
I would just add on to that, by the way, well said.
Oh,
yeah,
thank you.
I agree. I think to add on to that, I would tell aspiring church planner or somebody considering church planning, I would tell them the same thing I would tell somebody thinking about getting married, somebody thinking about doing missions work, somebody thinking about doing foster care. Like, okay, like let's go see what this looks like, because I think unfortunately there's an idealism that is okay. Sometimes if there was no idealism, we wouldn't do anything hard probably. But, I do premarital with couples, and it's like, okay, like getting married isn't going to make your life all of a sudden, easy. It's not going to make your relationship, it's not going to make you fight less. It's like that couple of things, if they have kids, they won't fight as much, or they won't have marital problems. Like, no. I would tell an aspiring church planner, like, go love the church, get in a local church, start serving, start caring for people, and start doing the work and see what it actually looks like. Because there's this lie that church planning is just like this entrepreneurial adventure. Like you're still pastoring. You're still working through the same things that, you're still dealing with broken marriages. You're still dealing with sin in people's lives. You're still dealing with hard, toxic relationships and difficult things. And then of course there's all this practical stuff you have to do too. Serve at a local church, start caring for people, and see if this is actually something you're called to. We're not called to the adventure, the idealistic, romanticized adventure of church, but that doesn't exist. That's not reality. You're called to ministry, and ministry is hard, and you got to be called to it. And then one other thing, when I talked to an older guy that had planted a lot of churches leading up, he just said one thing. He said, just make sure you're healthy. Make sure you're healthy, because you get pummeled, man. You're alone. You don't have a staff. I went from working at a church with 6 other pastors to by myself. So make sure you're healthy. Make sure you have a support system. Make sure that you're actually believing what you're preaching. Make sure that you're actually ingesting the gospel.
So are you kind of zooming in and breaking apart what it means to be healthy, have a support system, believe what you're preaching? Are these...
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything make sure your wife's on board.
Yeah.
Make sure you have people that are going to catch you. Make sure you have elders or leadership team, even if they don't go to that church with you, that's literally going to help you sort out problems. Craig?
To add to what Aaron and Sam said, Aaron is saying, be satisfied with what God has called you to. I jokingly say I'm a one-talent guy that just decided not to bury it. And certainly counting the cost, Sam, I would add practically to anybody who's considering church planning is to get out of debt. You're going to struggle, as both Sam and Aaron have pointed out, in ways that you can't even imagine. You're going to be tested, pulled, tried. You're going to discover every leak in your boat. And, the Lord is going to bless that, but it's going to be hard. But the thing you don't want to have is this looming debt over you financially. If you've got a house mortgage, that's something different. Sometimes church planners will need to be bivocational. And then I was blessed with a guy that was been there, done that, planted several churches. He's coaching pastors all over the world, and he's coached us. And so mentorship is really, really important. So you're not out there trying to figure it out by yourself. You have somebody speaking into your life, and as my coach Sam would say, testing your reality. I can be high-minded and idealistic all day long, but until somebody pokes a hole in my theories and says, well, here's reality, or here's what you need to do. So get out of debt and find somebody who can coach you.
So if you want to find that person, do you just kind of wait for the Lord to bring it along, or are there some things you can Google, some good places you can go to kind of ask for that kind of support?
Well, to Sam's point, I think that, if you're a church planter, you need to be serving in a local church. You need to be confirmed by that local church when you go out. And I think that was your case, Aaron. And,
absolutely.
And certainly your case. Yep. And it was our case as well. So you start talking about it, and you're embryoed inside that parent church. And there's likely going to be somebody who is going to become part of your plant team. But in our case, I just started asking. the power of the ask. And I had a friend who was being coached because he was also a planter getting ready to launch, and he introduced me to my coach. So either you have that resource in your parent church where you're embryonic before you launch, or you just start asking other people. And seriously, if you're listening to this podcast, reach out to Josh or myself. I would be happy to introduce you to this gentleman. He's phenomenal.
I don't want to beat the dead horse here, but I'm just going to say something that needs to be said. Like, you need to reach the qualifications of an elder. I think a lot of guys decide to plant churches because they don't like their lead pastor. They don't like being told what to do. So they're going to grab a small group and start a church. And that's really not the way to do it. You need to have, to Craig's point, like, you need to have a sending church. I think you need to be called. You need to be affirmed by the local church. You need to be above reproach and somebody that actually should be pastoring a church. A lot of guys that are not qualified sneak through the back door of church planting.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody that tell them that they can't, and they plant because they can't work anywhere because nobody will let them do what they want to do.
Splants.
Yeah, it's like, man, I mean,
What'd you
get
say?
grief.
Splants. Split plants.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you put a bunch of yes men on your board, or yes women, or whatever your flavor is, and then that creates this culture where, like, you're just the boss, you're the Moses guy, and you shouldn't really have been in church planting and ministry in the first place without, you know what I mean? I would just say, put yourself under the real pressure of godly leadership that can ask you hard questions, like, why do you want to do this? And if why you want to do this is because you want to be the next thing on Instagram or the next megachurch pastor, then you need to not do this. Like, because you're probably going to be pastoring 25 people in your living room. That's the majority of church planting. And you got to be, are you okay to do that? Are you okay to be bivocational? Are you going to do this even if you got to sell pants? Like, are you cool with that? Because we go to these conferences and we see these guys get up there and talk about their stories, and we think, oh, that's going to be my story. I mean, I sat at Applegate and watched John Corson preach to 3,000 or 4,000 people, and everybody there thought, oh, I'm going to just go take my King James Bible and start a church, and I'll have an amphitheater with 3,000 people. Like, nope. And this is not how it works.
I'd like to point out another element here is friendship in the space where you're planting, and all three of you are friends. And even here, we're drinking some coffee that Sam found out about from Craig, because Craig is connected to some missions group that roasts coffee.
Serve Hope International.
Yes, good name drop that. And so there's also that element of being open to collaborating and seeing who else that God is bringing into this work, and that humility of being open to working together. And so some of you have name dropped Church of the Valley, and that's kind of a network here in Grants Pass of Christian leaders and pastors who are on mission, not to grow their own kingdoms and their own churches, but looking to see God's kingdom come in Grants Pass, and looking for the church to grow kind of on a macro level. So that's another element at play here that I would just want to throw in there is, and maybe you're hearing that as you're hearing these guys talking, there's a friendship and an openness to collaboration. And I would just like to throw that out there as a thing that,
we don't want to skip over that. I know when we came into town, we had a very similar experience to what you said, Sam. I mean, we were embraced. Guys reached out from Parkway, guys from River Valley. I mean, you reached, I mean, it was like there was a lot of open arms immediately. And there just wasn't the infighting. And it felt from day one like, hey, we're all doing a good work together.
For me, I was working at an established church at the time when you guys were all planting. And for me, I was like, God, you love Grants Pass so much that you would send more workers
then
to
you
love
met us,
these
and you
people.
were like, I'll revise that assessment immediately. Yeah.
So keeping the work of God front and center, we're all pointing to what God is up to, and we're seeing ourselves as a part of the story that God is writing in this place. And that I need to keep on being reminded that it's about God's work, and I'm seeing you guys as part of the work that God is doing, and that's exciting.
When I came to Grants Pass, I was delighted to find out about Church of the Valley, and I'm delighted to call most of the pastors here in the city friend. Even the really, really big pastors, church pastors, are like, yes, I'm glad you're here. And this is where I developed the friendship with these two guys.
So we are recording this in September of 2022, And I'm just curious, kind of as we look to land this time together, as you look at on the horizon at 2023, what's something personally and or professionally that you see on the horizon that you're kind of looking forward to, Aaron?
Well, we're looking at moving into our own facility after 5 years. So that's a big move for us.
You've been renting space at a local theater, kind of concert venue.
Mm-hmm. And so we don't get it midweek. We've got it on Sundays, and that's it. There's not a great space for kids. And so the facility question's always, it's a big move. And so you don't want to make a bad decision, but we're getting close on a place, God willing. And, and so that's going to be occupy a large part of our time and focus for 2023.
Anything personally that you'd want to share that you're looking in 2023?
Most kind of going back to what Sam had said about just making sure that you're healthy. There's like a lot of self-help, self-care kind of stuff floating around there. The interwebs, that's kind of ridiculous. People, they engage in a little too much self-care. But the job does take a lot out of you. And I think lots of times, particularly as guys, you don't totally notice it happening until you hit a wall pretty hard. And so trying to implement things in life, both with fitness, just doing a lot of walking and doing things that are refreshing and invigorating, hiking, that kinds of things, but then also just having a really, really balanced family life and have a family night every week, and nobody gets to take that away. The church doesn't get to take it away. People who need ministry don't get to take it away, and just being really, really, really dialed so that your personal health is good, so that when you are at church and you're doing ministry, you can give it everything that it deserves and everything that you have, because you have something to give.
Craig?
2023, like Aaron, we are hoping to find a permanent location. We are a church that is now moved out of the house and into the public, and we are looking to lease a space. Hopefully, I'm just waiting to hear the blessing from our friends at the city to find out what the occupancy cap is. And so I'm just believing God for that. And personally, I think it's all about health, self-care. Like Aaron and Sam have mentioned, self-care is critical, because if I'm not caring for myself spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, then it all falls apart, and then I need to step back and take a hiatus. So I want to really focus on abiding well, trusting God well, and obeying God well. It's not a big technical thing. It's just, Lord, let me go deep with you. Teach me how. Saying
yes to God's care for you, God's pastoring of you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen. Sam, anything in 2023 you're looking forward to or see on the horizon?
We're like 2 months, hopefully less, 2 months from finally getting our sanctuary expanded. So we don't own it. We just sublease it on Sundays.
And give us a quick nutshell of what your worship space looks like.
Well, we're sitting just outside of it right now here. And so we meet here at this place called The Hive, which is like a co-working venue space during the week. And then on Sundays, we turn it into Philippi Chuch. And so right now it's got a decent sized meeting space, but we're tapped out on it. So we're pulling some walls out and expanding that. And that's just exciting for me, because that's going to just relieve some of the pressure.
Does the owner of the Hive know you're pulling walls out?
He's doing it. Actually, okay. He's doing it. Yeah. And so that'll be cool. So excited about that. And then personally, like my wife and I are going to be taking a 2-week trip to Albania to see about some missions relationships there, as well as Slovakia, and then a day in Rome, which will be cool. We've never gotten to do a trip like this. Like I've been on international trips without her. She's, had to stay home with the kids. And so this time we get to go together, and I think it's going to be really sweet. So I'm excited too for what God's going to open up globally there for us. We're sending a missionary over there for a year that we're going to be bringing with us and leaving there. And God's just doing cool things. We're drinking better coffee now, thanks to Craig. And
Serve Hope International.
Serve Hope International.
Yep. Hashtag whatever. Okay.
Yeah, we'll get on that too. Okay.
Come on.
Okay. All right. Smelling what you're cooking.
Up your game.
Well, guys, it's been an honor hanging out. Thank you for coming to the table and sharing some of your story with me, and for those who are listening. And I look forward to what God wants to do next.
Thanks for having us. It's been a pleasure.
Yep. Thanks, Josh.
See you around town.
Party on.